Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at a whole bunch of new makeup. So I have 3 of the new Hourglass Unreal Liquid Blushes. I purchased shades Scene, Whim, and Vision. I also picked up the new Addiction Tokyo 15th anniversary palette. So we have some new and some repeating shades in here. So we'll go through which are which. And in addition, not new, but new to me, we have the Sweed lipsticks. So they had sent me one of these in PR a couple months ago, and then I ended up purchasing a whole bunch of these. This is kind of what I've been looking for in a lip crayon recently. So we're going to talk about those and how they differ from some of the newer releases. In addition, Fude Beauty was kind enough to send me some Tanseido eyeshadow brushes, and we have a few different styles to look at, as well as, we've got Kolinsky hair. So this is kind of a first for me. I didn't have any Kolinsky eyeshadow brushes. So we're going to be trying those out, and let's go ahead and get started with the Hourglass blushes. So let's start off with the packaging here. So you can see it's kind of small. You can see it's kind of palm sized here. And we have a 1-year shelf life. These are made in Korea. We have 10.3 milliliters. So about a third of a foundation. So this is the blush. We do have a twist off cap, and you want to shake this before use. We have a little push tab here on the bottom that you can depress to get the blush out. And this, for some reason, my Scene, I need to press a little bit harder to get this one out, but the other two, you'll see they come out right away. So let me go ahead and show you those. But this one here is the shade Scene, and you can see it's going to be a thin, watery texture. It's not as thin as something like the Daniel Sandler watercolor blushes. Those are pretty much more like water with color in them. This is a little bit thicker than that, but definitely not anywhere near a cream blush. They're definitely more on the watery side. So they're thinner, which, has some pros and cons. So that's the shade Scene, and you can see that this is kind of like your nude rose pink. There is a touch of warmth to it. I wouldn't say that it is a warm pink. It's more neutral. Then we have the shade Whim, and this is what I have on right now. And this one is actually pretty vibrant. So you can see how easily this one kind of comes out here. It feels a little bit thinner than Scene. So this one feels just a little bit thinner in texture. You can see it's a little bit more watery feeling. And this is going to be more of a warm carnation pink. So this one definitely has warm or coral undertones in it. And I think it's a really beautiful shade, but it's definitely a little bit brighter than I thought. The one that surprised me the most is the shade Vision here. And Vision, let's put it right here. Put this on the other side of Scene. And there you go. So you can see sometimes it can be a little bit harder to get your first drop out, which I actually don't think is a bad thing, because then, since it is kind of a liquidy product, a lot of times those like drip out super fast and you end up wasting product. So it's not like super hard to get out, but it definitely there can be a little resistance at times. So you can see the Vision looks pretty deep. It has a little bit of a brick red tone to it, but it's kind of like that creamy nude rose with a touch of brick red. So we have the shade Scene, Whim, and Vision. And before we move on, I just wanted to compare this with the Tom Ford cream blush that came out this spring, summer. So this blush here is the Cafe Rose cream blush called Cafe Blush. And I have to say, on the skin, these are not completely the same, but they do give me a similar vibe on the skin when I blend this out. So one of the great things about this, it actually blends out pretty softly on the skin. So you'll see that in the cheek demos in just a minute. And while we're looking at a few comparisons, let's go ahead and take a look at the Hourglass cream blush sticks. I have 2 of them. So this is the shade Sacred. So we'll put this one right here. And you can see shade-wise, this is kind of in between Whim and Vision. A little bit closer to Vision, but it has a bit more of that orange vibe to it that you get in the undertone of Whim. The other one I have is Devoted. And I have to say, These cream blush sticks are fine, but I just never really reach for them. You can see that the undertone here, it gets a little bit more, there's a little bit more brown in it than seen, and it's definitely more peachy. So those are just a few comparisons. So again, we have the cream blush stick in Sacred and in Devoted. This is the Unreal Liquid Blush in Whim, Scene, Vision. And this is the Tom Ford Cafe Blush. So let's take a look at the cheek swatches and talk a little bit about this. So as we're looking at these liquid blushes, you can see that one side I dabbed it on with fingers, so you can kind of see what that does. And you actually get a pretty pigmented look with that. I think that actually, you know, you can definitely build that up a lot more strongly with fingertips than you do with the brush. The brush actually blends it out a bit more, makes it a little bit softer. So for the brush, I use the Classic Base from Sonia G, which is part of her Fusion series. And I love a brush this size and shape, or even the mini base for liquid blushes like this. So for me, what I found the best method is to put a little dab on your hand or a palette and then just kind of rub it into the bristles so you can get a softer finish to the skin. The Unreal Liquid Blushes retail for $36 US. As I mentioned, we have 0.34 ounces here, and these are made in Korea with a 1-year shelf life. Now, according to Hourglass, this is a liquid blush that visibly plumps with hydration and delivers unreal, buildable color for a natural finish that stays in place for up to 12 hours. The coverage is light, the finish is natural, and the formulation is, of course, liquid. It's free of parabens, phthalates, mineral oil, and triclosan. It's also vegan, gluten-free, and cruelty-free. Furthermore, infused with Hourglass's Unreal Lifting Complex, this serum-like formula instantly hydrates to visibly firm and lift cheeks with color for all-day weightless wear. The innovative packaging features a precision dropper to customize your desired look, from a soft wash of color to a vibrant flush. So I have tested this blush, and I wore it for about 14 to 15 hours before taking it off. And although I forgot to do a wear update on this, I did check and noticed that around hour 10 or so, I did notice some fading. It wasn't significant fading. The blush was definitely still present. You could really see it. It just wasn't as vibrant or as noticeable as it was when I first applied it. So most of the day, it really held up pretty much true to its original application, but towards the end of the day, there was some fading. By the time I removed it, I would say 80% of the color, pigment was still there, but maybe there was about 20% fading. And again, that was after like 14 to 15 hours. Overall, I have to say I do like this blush. I think that is a nice liquid blush. I think with liquids, you do need to, your application method has to change a little bit. And as I mentioned, I think for me, the best way is to put a drop, you only need one drop, on either a palette or the back of your hand and kind of use a smaller brush to rub into it. Now, as you could see in the cheek swatches, I showed them to you what it looks like on top of foundation, but for the shade Whim today, I also put it on as a base underneath foundation so you could see what it would look like if you wanted to just get a hint of color. Whim is definitely a brighter, more vibrant shade, and that one is a little bit harder to go in softly on top of foundation. So for me, that is one that's definitely better underneath foundation. If you use, this is a medium coverage foundation, and you can see that you can still see the pigmentation of Whim through that. So I think there are definitely some different ways that you can apply these and make them work for you. Now, I do have a couple of cons about this product. The packaging, as you could see, getting the drops out, sometimes it's a little bit harder than others. Sometimes it's super easy. Thankfully, I haven't had any issue where I've got a whole bunch coming out when I don't want that. So I think that is a plus, but the packaging itself is a little bit of a con because I do feel like it is challenging. After you've used this for a while, I think it's going to be harder and harder to get the product out. And unfortunately, I also think that's going to make it really hard to fully use up the product. Whereas if you had something like a doe foot applicator, you could potentially scrape around the sides of the jar and things like that. So I think, this packaging, it allows for waste of product. And so for me, that's a con. When you are closing this, you do want to make sure you hear that click for the cap so that is fully closed. So far in my experience, I would have to say that the formula itself works well with different skin tints and foundations. So I have tried it with a thicker cream style foundation, thinner medium coverage, skin tint, and so forth, just to kind of test things out. And I haven't had any issues with anything not being compatible or any sort of product separation or anything throughout the day. So I think overall it's a really nicely designed product. But I do think that the packaging has some quirks, which are not necessarily a plus. I feel like that's one of Hourglass's biggest issues. You know, like, remember their eyeshadows, the little singles that you purchase the palette separately for? I actually really love the eyeshadows, but the price of them and the packaging design of them were the big cons. So packaging here again is just not as successful as I would have hoped it would be. And one more time, just to take a look at the swatches, we have the Unreal Liquid Blushes in Whim, Scene, and Vision. And you could see Vision actually can get much softer than this on the cheeks. I actually really like it. It reminds me of this Tom Ford Cafe blush on the cheeks when they're blended out. Then we have the Hourglass Cream Blush Sticks in Sacred and Devoted. And yeah, that basically sums that up. So let me know if you've tried that or if you're interested in that product. Let's go ahead. We're going to move on to the Sweed lipsticks. So as I had mentioned in the beginning, Sweed had sent me one of these lipsticks in PR. And then I ended up absolutely loving the formula. It reminds me a lot of the Sisley phyto-lip twist, which I love. This is a satin finish crayon, basically. And I loved them so much, I went and bought a bunch of them. So this here is our first shade that we're looking at. And you can see that this is going to be a light everyday nude. This is called Celine. And you can see that it's kind of a soft shimmery nude here. Now, packaging wise, you can see that we have this triangle shape. It twists up here. And that's basically going to be it. So real quickly, before we take a look at the other colors, let me show you the Sisley. So we have very similar packaging for the Sisley. Obviously, the aesthetics of them are different. The shape of this was originally the same time. Neither one of them come with a sharpener, by the way. And this is shade number 1 in the Phyto Twist. It has the same mechanism. And I wanted to put this one right here because this is one of my most used. But look how close Sisley number 1 is to Celine. The Sisley number 1 has a little bit more pink in it, whereas the Celine shade is just a little bit more nude, but they are very close and they both have a touch of shimmer in there very faintly. Then we have this shade here. This is part of the Sweed and Lydia Millen collaboration. This is the shade Wild Rose. And this is much warmer than I expected. So you can see this actually has a touch of terracotta in it. This is a pure satin, no shimmer in here, just have a bit of a satin sheen. This is Gabriella Beige Tan, and there are 2 Gabriella shades. There's Beige Tan, which is this one here, and then we have Beige Rose, which is what's on my lips right now and is one of the ones that I use a ton. So you can see that Beige Rose in comparison is slightly pinker, a little cooler, whereas Beige Tan has a little bit more peach in it instead. So that's kind of our difference between the 2 of those. And then we have Penelope Rose. And I love this shade. This is more of a soft berry. So you, again, have a little bit of nude in there. It makes it really light, soft, and natural. All of these shades in general can be pretty soft on the lips. But we do have some more pigmented shades like this one here, which is stunning. This is called 90s Model. And this is your brownish berry with a touch of red in it. And it's such a great fall shade. I love it. So then we have another Lydia Millen collaboration lipstick, and this is the shade Hollyhock. And you can see that this is going to be more of a coral shade. So these are the ones that I have. I forget, I think Celine was the one I got in PR, and then I purchased the rest of these. So absolutely love these. And I think these are a great alternative to the Sisley Phyto Lip Twist. I love both of them and I will continue to purchase both, but it's nice to get some other shades and everything as well. So let's take a look at the lip swatches while we talk about this. The Sweed the lipsticks have 2.5 grams of product, and these are made in Italy with an 18-month shelf life. And they retail for $28 US. I have to say, I think these are really nice. According to Sweed, the lipstick is an ultra soft lipstick with a buttery, balmy formula that gives your lips a beautiful shine and a plumped effect thanks to its nourishing and moisturizing formula. With buildable color, it's easy to wear and gives the lips a heavenly smooth feeling. The formula is clean, natural, and vegan. Now I want to note that there is no fragrance listed in the ingredients here. There is a very faint hint of that clean beauty scent that you get from lip products, but I have to say it's a lot fainter than other clean beauty lipsticks. So it's really nothing that, in my opinion, is bothersome. These have a very thin, more of a lip balm kind of texture on the lips. They're really easy to apply. They're soft, but the product is not so soft that you have to worry about breakage. So they really feel kind of like a mix of like something silky and buttery mixed together. And I find them to be really, really comfortable. As for shimmer, in the shades that I have, I only see shimmer in the shade Celine. None of the others have any shimmer, but they all do have a satin finish, so you get a little bit of a sheen from them. Again, no actual glitter particles or anything like that. Now, as I keep mentioning, these are very similar to me to the Sisley Le phyto-lip twist in the satin formula. Sisley also has a matte version, and Sweed at this point does not have a matte version. However, all the lip crayons that we've seen coming out recently, like the new Pat McGrath and Illy and so forth, all of those have been a matte finish. And I've really been looking hard for a great satin crayon because that's really a go-to for me, particularly during the summer. I love to carry that, you know, in my handbag because I don't have to worry so much about that melting like I would with a regular bullet lipstick, you know, because even if this melts, it's kind of in that slim style packaging essentially. So this is definitely a go-to product for me, especially during the summer. And, you know, it's been so hard to find a satin lip crayon. I wanted some new shades apart from the Sisley essentially. And this has accomplished that. I'm really happy with the formula. Texture is great. I really love these. I think they are a fantastic lip crayon. So I'm just going to go ahead and swatch a few of the others. This is Sisley in shade 15 Nut. And you can see maybe that's close. It's not really super close to any of these. But this is definitely going to be more of kind of your soft, peachy, kind of like a peachy rose kind of shade. Kind of, I guess the closest would be the beige tan, the Gabriella Beige Tan. This is number 8. This is going to be a bit more pink, but our closest here is the shade Hollyhock. But you can see Hollyhock is coral, 8 is pink. One of my most used from Sisley, this is number 24. And I wanted to see how this compared to the Beige Rose. But you can see that we have a lot more nude in the Sisley, a bit more brown in there. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a softer, warmer version of Penelope Rose, which is this one here. And I have 2 other satin ones. This one here is 25. Let's see how that compares to 90s Girl, but this is really more of a soft red. So color-wise, it doesn't go. And then we have number 2, which is a soft cool tone pink. And again, the shade doesn't really match up with any of the Sweed shades. So this is number 1 from Sisley here. You can see that that one has a good match for the Celine shade from Sweed, but the others, we just really have different color ranges, which I think is great because then we get more options. So let me know if you've tried any of these or what your favorite shade is. And again, let's just go through these one more time. We have the shade Celine first, then we have Wild Rose. This is going to be Gabriella Beige Tan, followed by Gabriella Beige Rose. Then we have the next one here is Penelope Rose, 90s, was it 90s Girl or 90s Model? 90s Model. And then Hollyhock. So these are the Sweed lipsticks. And yeah, I think they are fantastic. Next, we're going to take a look at the Addiction Tokyo Anniversary palette. And as we're looking at all of the demos for this palette, I'll be using the Tanseido brushes. So we'll come back and take a look at the Tanseido brushes after the demos, but you can kind of see what they look like in action. They are labeled on the screen, so you can see which brush is which. So this is the Addiction Tokyo Anniversary palette for their 15th anniversary. It retails for $80 US. And if you're in the US, you can purchase it from the Addiction Tokyo US site. Otherwise, you're going to have to purchase it from another retailer like Fude Japan or so forth, which is going to be essentially like a personal shopper kind of issue. So we have 19 grams of product here. It's made in Japan, and these, I think these are great. So this is a palette. You can see how beautiful it is. We have really beautiful 15 shades here. And so in this case, we actually have 7 repeating shades and 8 brand new shades. So let's take a look at those as we are swatching them. So we're going to swatch from the top row, left to right. And well, I guess it's left to right here. And we'll go through each shade as we do that. This first shade here is going to be one of the sparkle shades. So this is called Moon River, and this is one of the not new shades, but look at this. So you have kind of this bluish purple look, but then it kind of, when the light hits it a certain way, it blends out to this warm nude. So at times when you're wearing it, it can look like you have nothing on, and then when the light hits it a certain way, you see that bluish purple vibe. So I think that's a really interesting shade there. And again, that is going to be a shade that you can purchase separately. And then we have this marble shade here. This is new. This is a pearlescent pink and white marbled together. And this is going to have the pearl finish, which is one of my favorites. It's kind of like a satiny shimmer. Next, we have a matte shade, and this is called Thousand Feathers. And I think I actually purchased this one separately before I knew it was in the palette. So this is going to be a soft, a taupe, a warm taupe matte. So this is going to be a nice matte. Now, the Addiction Tokyo mattes, they're soft, they can get very sheer. You can build them up, but these are, you know, think of like if you've used Swatch shadows, they are similar to that. Our next shade here is kind of like a white and bronzy gold mixed together. This is another pearl shade. And this actually gives you a bit more of a golden finish to it. It's going to be kind of like a soft antique gold. And again, this is going to be a pearl finish. It's brand new. Next, another shade here that is new. This is going to be your orange garnet. And this is, it's labeled as the sparkle finish, but I think that is incorrect. I think it's actually the pearl finish. So on the Addiction Tokyo website, they said that there are 6 pearl finishes and 2 of the sparkle. There's 1 prism and 6 matte. But when you look at how they have it labeled, they have it as 5 pearl and 3 sparkle. I think this is a mistake. I believe this is the pearl finish. It definitely feels and looks like other pearl finish shadows from them. You can see it's a really nice kind of a pumpkin orange. Starting in the second shade, this is going to be another new shade. This is purple with pearlescent blue. This is also pearl finish. And you can see we have kind of that fuchsia pink vibe to it. You don't see a ton of the blue reflect, but you get a little bit of that. And then next up, this is going to be a new matte shade, and this is a reddish brown. Knocking things over here. And you can see that even though it's a reddish brown, it's pretty neutral. We have a touch of coolness to it, but we also have a touch of warmth. I'm just knocking over all my Sweed lipsticks now. Next up, this shade here in the middle. This is going to be their most popular shade. This is their #1 seller, Mariage. And this is going to be in the sparkle formula. And you can see that it is a champagne shade there. Next, we have a matte called Cashmere. This is going to be a repeating shade, and this is a soft peach. So here's Cashmere. And then another new one here is going to be this. This is described as pink with gold sparkles, and this is your prism shadow. It's really just a really, you can see you've got some sheerness to the base here. It's kind of a transparent base with a gold, like a rose gold shimmer to it. Now moving on to the third row here, this is another new shade, and this is going to be a soft mauve matte shade. Look at that, kind of like a dusty lavender. They are calling it pink mauve. And then we have a pearlescent brown pearl. This is our pearl finish. And I have to say, I love this shade. It's a nice deep rich brown. This is new. This shade here is called Tiny Shell. This is a pearl finish. This one is not new. And you can see that it's a nice soft warm peachy pink. Sorry, you can see it's really hot here under the lights and it's super hot outside. So anyway, we have a bright mustard yellow, which is a matte. This is a new matte shade. And I mean, it's definitely just a mustard. A great description there. And then we have the shade Praline, which is matte, and this is a repeating shade. This is going to be a warm brown. There you go. You can see you've got some yellow in there. So this is the 15th anniversary palette. I think it's a really great palette. If you haven't tried Addiction Tokyo shadows, this is a great way to try them out as well. You got some new shades and some of their bestsellers. So let's take a look at the demos while we talk about this. So the Addiction Tokyo 15th anniversary palette is called the Lock the Best Moments palette. And it retails for $80 US. It's limited edition and it has just sold out, but it will be back. So you can actually, you can put in your email there, and I will definitely post when that is back up. But as I mentioned, we have 7 repeating shades and 8 brand new shades. And in general, these shadows are going to be very soft and easy to apply. You can build them up. You can use, these wet or dry. But, the Japanese eyeshadows in general are typically going to be very subtle. So very light sheer that you can build with more color. And one of the big things that they look for in their shadows are nuances of color. So that's what we have here. So textures, we have 4 different textures in this palette. So as I mentioned, there are 6 pearl, 2 sparkle, 1 prism, and 6 matte shades. And they have a breakdown of the shades on their website. So when you go to the product listing, you can actually see which shades are going to be new and repeating. They're very transparent with all the information. I think that's really great. So according to Addiction Tokyo, the palette has neutral colors in the center and cool and warm colors on the left and right, allowing you to easily explore and create looks with the ease of a professional makeup artist. Our signature skin melt technology suspends pigments in oil for smooth, buildable application and seamless wear. And these are just really easy to use if you're somebody who loves Suku or Surratt eyeshadows. These are kind of up there with them. So they are similar formulas. You'll notice that the Surratt mattes are very similar to the Addiction Tokyo mattes. I do think that overall, out of the shades that I've worn from their mattes, the Addiction Tokyo actually go on a little bit softer, whereas the Surratt are perhaps slightly more pigmented with one swipe. So that would be kind of my difference there. Surratt in general doesn't really have a lot of shimmers or anything. So I would definitely compare their mattes. But yeah, I think that would be a good comparison there. And the satins and shimmers and so forth, I would say that they're probably more comparable to Suku. They are, of course, not the same. There are going to be subtle differences in both formulas, different shades, and so forth as well. Sometimes one shade can feel a little different than another based on the pigments in there. But I would say overall, those are some fair comparisons to make amongst the brands. And I have to say, I really like this eyeshadow palette. So as we're looking, we're also looking at some of these brushes. So let's talk a little bit about the brushes. And as I mentioned, Tanseido and Fude Beauty, they gifted me these eyeshadow brushes that we're featuring here from Tanseido. So some of these eyeshadow brushes are Kolinsky hair, which is new to me for eyeshadow brushes. I think I have one other Kolinsky brush. So it's kind of a new hair to me, and it's one that I've always wanted to try. So Kolinsky is a specific species of weasel. You may also hear of like sable hair brushes. That is another weasel hair family, but these are all a little different. So Kolinsky hair, what makes it special is that it still has some softness and flexibility, which you don't get from all other weasel species. It has a stiffness to it though that you don't get from things like goat hair or squirrel hair that really allows it to work well with any sort of like pressed pigment or shimmer or sparkle shadow without having a lot of fallout. So of course you can get fallout from any brush, particularly if you're using it inappropriately. And I do show that in one of these little swatches where you can see I take the really short handled brush, which is the KQ12S. And that is going to be a brush, you know, you can see you have kind of that short smudger style shape. So if you are using that in a different manner than the way it's designed, of course you'll get like fallout and so forth. But if you are using the brushes based on the actual, you know, the function based on the form of the brush, then you're really going to minimize any sort of fallout and so forth. Another great thing about the Kolinsky hair brushes in general is that, you know, when you're working with like a goat hair or a synthetic brush or squirrel hair brush, you know, your pigmentation level that you pick up can sometimes vary. So goat hair brushes tend to pick up your pigment more strongly compared to your squirrel brushes and so forth. The Kolinsky has a pretty even balance, so it's going to pick up that pigment very easily, but you have a lot of control as to how much you deposit and how it is deposited. So actually Kolinsky hair is used by a lot of artists for their paintbrushes because it really helps them get a really gradual gradation of color and is very precise and thin. It's actually a type of hair that is used in dental work as well. So, you know, like painting on like, you know, when you are painting on like a veneer and things like that. So you can see these in quite a variety of uses. So obviously I'm not recommending purchasing these particular brushes for those uses, but those are functions that are used with the Kolinsky hair type, and it's something that makes it a very valuable hair type. So you'll see that when you look at weasel hair brushes in general, you know, a lot of them are not very expensive, but when you look at Kolinsky, it commands a very high price tag for that reason, because not only is it incredibly versatile, you can use it with powders, liquids, creams, you know, works well with pigments and shimmers and so forth, but it's also fairly soft. Now I want to mention that these brushes are all on sale at Fude Beauty until July 31st. So just something to note if you are interested in any of them, they do have a discount running right now. And let's take a look at the Addiction Tokyo palette swatches one more time, and then let's take a closer look at these brushes. So here is the palette, and I'm going to bring this in even closer so you can really see those colors. But you can see that they can go on lightly, but you can really increase your pigmentation level as well. And we have a wide variety of shades in here, so it's really giving you a great idea of what Addiction Tokyo makeup is all about. You've got cool tones, warm tones, neutral tones, you have pops of colors, you've got neutrals, you've got sparkles, you've got mattes. You know, it's really a great all-around picture of what you can get from Addiction Tokyo. And Addiction Tokyo in general, you know, they will sell, you know, limited edition palettes and so forth here, as well as singles, and you can create your own palettes. So that is something that I think is a great attribute. And yeah, I would definitely not hesitate to pick up this palette. I think it not only a great introduction, it's a gorgeous palette. I love the new shades in here, and I think it's just a really fun, great palette to have. So by the way, they did also release some new lip tints with this collection, and they are sending those to me. So I will have those up when those arrive, but I did purchase this palette. And let's take a look at those brushes. So I want to start off with this one here, which is the KQ12B. So this is Kolinsky hair, and you can see that we have some, you can see I used this today, so there's still a little powder on there, but you can see that we have strength and flexibility in here, but it's also very soft if you're using it like this. Now, if you're going to use it like this, it's fairly soft, but obviously not as soft as something like squirrel hair. But this gives you, it just feels very smooth. So it glides on really well. It works great as a shader. And as for the shape here, you can see that we start having a bit of a taper of the hairs. You know, they increase in length going up to here, and we have a little bit of a ridge at the top. So you can see that we do have a little bit of an arch here, which allows you to, this one works really well for one and done. And again, this will work well with creams, liquids, powders, shimmers, you know, straight up pigments. And then I also wanted to show you this one. So this is the AQ12. So this one here is Red Squirrel. We have the same shape. Now you can see that every brush, since it is a Fude brush, they're all handmade. All bristles are hand placed. So even though they are the same general shape, they are going to be slightly different. Plus our Kolinsky hair being a little bit, you know, a little bit stiffer in general, having a little bit more strength and resilience in each hair fiber, this is going to keep its shape more. Whereas this one here in the AQ12 is going to be your Red Squirrel. It's incredibly soft. And you could see that putting down the pigment, you're really going to get a softer pigmentation level with this. But you can see that this one here, it's very soft and flexible. There's a lot of movement and airiness in this. So this actually works super well in the crease. Whereas I find that the KQ12B to be, it's a little stiff for crease work. You can do it, but it's a little stiff. This is really going to give you more precision when you are putting on like a deep shade or, you know, something with cream. I think this works really well with creams and liquids personally. And this is also a brush that works well under the eyes for concealer. So I think that's a great use for that. So we have a slightly smaller version, which is going to be the KQ10B. So you can see that not only is our handle a little smaller, but the brush head is a little smaller as well. But this is the KQ10B. And I have to say, out of all of the ones I sent, this one's my favorite because it's just a great shader style here. And I think it works really well over my lid. You know, it fits my eye shape very well. Again, you can kind of get into the crease to get some sort of, you know, if you're looking for, if you want crease work that's a bit more precise, both of these will work well for that. But if you're trying to blow out the crease and kind of get more of that soft diffuse look, I would go with something a little softer like the AQ12 or a traditional crease brush. So overall though, I have to say, I think both of these brushes are great. The large one here is great for, you know, one and done colors, but you can do that with this one as well, the KQ10B. And this is my favorite just because it is the most versatile. Now, I also wanted to share, this is the KQ12S. So we have kind of the same design, but our bristle length is going to be much shorter. So it's basically moving your ferrule up to here. So although it's on the 12. So you can see, let's put this here. So you can see though that it's a little bit smaller. It's definitely much shorter in comparison, and it's much shorter than the 10 as well. So our bristle length in general, the KQ12B has a bristle length of 19 millimeters. The 10B is 14 and the 12S is 10. So we are going to be getting a little shorter. So this one here is also Kolinsky hair. So you can see we can have a color difference here. And this being in a smudger style is definitely going to be, you know, even stiffer. You can see this is going to be great if you want just a little bit of precision, if you're doing like the outer corner, or you want to smudge eyeliner or underneath here, or if you are somebody who does any of the artistic lining on the eyes and you want something a little larger, this works. But if you want true precision, you want to go with the eyeliner brush. So we'll get to that in just a second. But this 12S, you know, I think this is a really great smudger brush, and it's comfortable enough to use on the upper and lower lash lines for that thicker smudged out look. And it feels soft, yet it's not so soft that you have your bristles splaying and you're still getting precision. It's just a thicker line because, again, look at your brush head here. It's going to be a little bit thicker. So if you're looking for stronger precision than something more precise, and I did use this today, but you can get this at a bit more of a point than how I have it now. I was just wiping it off before, but this one here is the KR2B. So this is a Kolinsky eyeliner brush. And again, this is going to be really great for liquids and creams in particular. Now I did show it to you using like wet eyeshadow, but it's really going to excel with your liquids and creams. Now, one of the reasons that I highly recommend this, Now, one of the reasons I would recommend the Kolinsky brushes for this is, again, these hairs really keep their shape well. They kind of stay together in their design shape without, you know, splaying out. So you can really get that precision, paint it in there. And, you know, you can see, putting this on my hand, that you're not having, even though this is dry, it's not splaying out at all. When you have that liquid on there, it really stays put even more, and you can get a really thin, precise line. So if you are in the market for an eyeliner brush, I have to say, I think this one's really great. And what I personally love, because I'm somebody not skilled with liquid liner, what I love is the size of the handle, because it is short, so I can get up close, I can hold it comfortably. I'm not worried about stabbing myself with anything. And yet I'm still getting the precision here. So I think it's a really nice eyeliner brush. And I have to say, that's definitely my favorite of the, you know, thinner eyeliner brushes I have. I haven't found one that I love since I had an old one from like an art store when I was much younger, and it died. But yeah, this is my favorite since then. I haven't found one I truly loved in this size and shape before. So I really like this one. And then I wanted to introduce you to this one. This is the MQ10. So here's the MQ10. This is the KQ10. So you can see that we do have similar size and shape. This one, however, this is going to still be weasel hair, but it's not Kolinsky hair. And you can see here that, you know, it's a little bit, perhaps a little bit stiffer. It's also, it feels a little bit thinner, and that's basically a component. It's because of the way the actual hairs are. So this is still gonna be a high quality weasel hair, and it's very elastic. It really allows you to get into the inner corner well. I have to say, these two are my two favorites that you know, I received here from Fude Beauty. I really like these a lot. And I think these are both great brushes to have. And the MQ10 is actually, you know, because it's not Kolinsky and it's weasel in general, it is going to be a little bit less expensive. So I do think it's a great alternative here as well. But it is stiff enough that you can use it to smudge things out. It's not going to have as much strength and support as this one here, the KQ12S, just because the bristles are a little bit longer. So you can see that, you know, you've got a little bit more movement there. But you can see this is fantastic as a lay down brush, as is the KQ10. So the KQ10 though, I did want to note, you can see we have a bit more fluffiness to it, a little bit more of a gradation here. We have that gradation here, but this is essentially pressed more firmly. This is going to be thinner, and this is really going to be best for a shader. So the KQ10B is actually a little bit more versatile because this also can do precision crease work. I have to say though, I really love both of these. So I think these are great options. If you are somebody who wears a lot of shimmery, sparkly eyeshadow, I would definitely recommend looking into one of these brushes, testing them out and see what you think, because I think they do a really nice job, particularly with those. If you wear cream eyeshadows a lot and you're looking for something to give you some precision so you're not making a mess with the cream like I often do, I think these brushes are well suited for that. If you stick primarily with powders, I think these are nice for that, but for me, they're not ideal. I still do prefer things like the squirrel hairbrush, like the AQ12, or even just some, you know, some regular eyeshadow brushes in goat, squirrel, fox, and so forth. You know, I think the Kolinsky hair for me, it really reigns supreme with any sort of cream or liquid or sparkle. And so I would definitely recommend those if those are the types of products that you use. And again, one of the great things about starting with something like the KQ12B is you could also use this for concealer. So I think, I mean, you can with a smaller one as well, but obviously it's a little bit small for that. But I think that makes it a great versatile brush to start with. So I hope this has been helpful. Overall, we've covered some really great products here today. Just a quick summary of what we went through. We have the Hourglass Unreal Liquid Blushes. I think this is a really nice product inside, but I do think the packaging is not the best that it could be, and it can be hard as you get through more of this product to, you know, fully be able to use this up. I think you're gonna have to find a way to, I mean, you can take this off. You can see that it will separate here. So I think that is something that when I get further into the product, I will probably have to remove that to get some of it out when it gets further down. Plus you can always store it upside down, but I do think that's a little bit of a con. Then we took a look at the Sweed lipsticks, and I love these. I think it is a great satin lipstick formula. It's so similar to the Sisley on the lips, but we have a completely different color range. So I think it's nice to have different options, and I just definitely think that they are worth looking into. And again, there's no added fragrance to them, which I think is another benefit. Then we have the Addiction Tokyo 15th Anniversary palette, which is stunning. I absolutely love it. You got your warm shades, you've got some cooler shades, you've got some neutral shades along with their bestseller Mariage. If you're new to the brand, it's a great way to start. If you're not new to the brand, it's definitely, you know, if you love their products, you're definitely gonna love this palette. So I think that is fantastic. And again, it's out of stock at the moment, but it will restock, and I will definitely post when that's available, but you can sign up on their website as well. And then we went over some brushes from Tanseido, courtesy of Fude Beauty. And we have this one here, which is the KQ12B, which is a Kolinsky, kind of like an all-in-one, one-and-done brush. You can also use this for concealer. We also have the Red Squirrel version as AQ12, which is super soft, but this will definitely give you light pigmentation. I mean, honestly, it's like so soft on your eyes though. It's really awesome. And then we have the KQ10B, which is your smaller Kolinsky version. This is probably my favorite of all of those. Then we have the KQ12S, which is going to have a shorter bristle length. It's also Kolinsky hair. This is a great smudger brush, and I think I really just love these with creams and liquids in particular. We also have the KR2B, which is a precise liner brush. I love the handle length for this, and it works really well with liquids and creams, particularly for lining. In addition, we have this weasel hair brush, which is the MQ10, which is similar to the KQ10, but it's going to be weasel hair. It's a little bit thinner. It's a great shader brush, really awesome with sparkle shades. So I would definitely recommend it in that capacity there. So thank you so much to Fude Beauty and Tanseido for sending those. Overall though, we had some really great products today. So I'd love to know what your favorites were and if you've tried any of these things or what you're planning on picking up. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you very soon.